Hey, Happy New Year! Welcome to Crime Dive, the first one for 2023. My name is Crystal Sky, and if you're anything like me, you find yourself drawn to true crime cases. So that's what I've decided to talk about. If you like true crime, and you also want to feel better about your makeup skills, you should totally like, subscribe, and let's hang out together every Tuesday where I will take a deep dive look into a true crime case while slapping on the old clown paint. Yes, Happy New Year! How was your New Year? How was your holidays in general? How is the New Year treating you so far? I really hope that it is off to a fantastic start. As you can see, I've updated the set just a little bit. I had some cash come in for Christmas and decided to, spruce up the set a little bit. It's still a work in progress, I'm still gonna be fixing up and stuff. But yeah, I love these little cameras, candles, and I loved this little moon guy and this little planet thing. And yeah, again, still a work in progress, but yeah, I just wanted to spruce up the set. New year, new set, right? All right, well, without further ado, let's get into today's case, the first case that we are going to dive into. And so kind of need to adjust because it is an especially terrible and sad one today. It's one of those cases that doesn't really have a logical reason as to why it was done. I mean, all murder and, stuff like that is senseless, right? But, usually, right, we try to explain away, how could this happen? How could have this happened, right? This one today just kind of leaves you scratching your head because there's just no rhyme or reason. There's just nothing to point to why this happened and how it could have been prevented. Today, we will be talking about the case of Joel Guy Jr. It was a requested case. It was requested by Lori Archibald. I hope I said your name right. Let me know if I haven't, if you're watching. But yeah, thank you so much, Lori, for pointing me to this case because, man, it is really tragic. Definitely going to be some disclaimer warnings. We're going to be talking about dismemberments today, all right? And I don't want to say, too graphic detail, but enough detail that I feel like I should just warn you. Some people just, they can't handle certain stuff. So just wanted to let y'all know. I think there's an F-bomb or two that drops. I think it's a quote from Joel. So yeah, just be forewarned. I've got some heavy themes coming up in today's case. And yeah, man, I don't really have anything else to say. So let's just dive right into this case. So this case today about Joel Guy Jr. involves his parents, all right? Now, unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of information about his parents, as far as their upbringing and nitty-gritty details, stuff like that. But I do know some things, so of course, that is what I'll be sharing with you. So let's just go ahead and start this case. So we're actually going to start with Joel Guy Jr.'s parents. Like I said, we'll be starting with his father. His father was Joel Michael Mike Guy Sr., and he was born February 10th, 1955, in Surgoinsville, Tennessee. I hope that's how you say it, Surgoinsville. The court case for this case, the trial, it's a 4-day trial. The videos are up online, you can watch them. And that is how the prosecutors pronounced it, was Surgoinsville. So I wasn't sure if that was just because of their accents or what. So that's the pronunciation I'm gonna go with, all right? Now, Joel Guy Sr.'s mother was named Betty Jo White. I don't know who his father is. Like I said, I didn't find a whole lot of information. So Joel Guy Sr. had two sisters, one named Robin White and another named Renee Charles. And he did have a brother named Jeff, although I believe Jeff may have passed away before his brother. Joel Guy Sr. attended Linview High School in Kingsport, Tennessee, and he grew up and ended up being a pipeline engineering designer, and he worked for a company called Alstom. And his company was located in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, Joel Guy Sr. would end up having 3 daughters, a daughter named Candace Fink, and twin daughters named Michelle Tyler and Angela Crane. Now, Angela actually grew up to become an engineering designer herself. She became a civil engineering designer, and she said that it was her father bringing home blueprints from his job and stuff like that that really influenced her and inspired her decision to go down a similar career path as her father. She said he would always bring home blueprints of plans he was working on, and these blueprints fascinated her because it incorporated 2 things that she loved: math and drawing. Now, I believe Candace may have been the oldest, and then Michelle and Angela came after, and I think they had the same mother. I'm not sure. I don't even know anything about Joel Guy Sr.'s first marriage. Like I said, the information on him was pretty sparse. But we do know Joel Guy Sr. ended up having 3 daughters and was married at some point but got divorced. And then when Michelle and Angela were approximately like 3 years old, or they may have been a year old, it was kind of hard for me to hear Angela testifying on one of the videos. I don't know if it was the audio quality or what, but I couldn't hear her. So between 1 and 3 years old is when Joel Guy Sr. would meet his future wife. And this would be the woman that he would end up spending the rest of his life with. Her name was Lisa Madere. I'm guessing that's how her maiden name is pronounced, Madere. Now, like with Joel Guy Sr., information on Lisa and her upbringing is pretty sparse. I know she was born August 8th, 1961 to Alvin D. and Joyce Madere. She had a sister named Paula Kindler and a brother named Alvin Jr. Now, when Lisa met Joel Guy Sr. and they ended up, getting together, Lisa ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom, but as the kids grew older, she got her own job. Not that being a stay-at-home mom isn't a job, but you know what I mean. And she ended up becoming a human resources accounts payable manager, an administrator. She wasn't a manager, she was administrator. And she ended up working at Jacobs Engineering, which was located in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Now, Lisa and Joel Sr. married sometime in like the mid-1980s-ish, like around there. And I know they lived in Louisiana for quite a long period of time. And then they had lived in West Knox, Tennessee since 2007. Now, it is said Lisa was just like a mother to Joel Sr.'s daughters. She doted on them as if they were her own. Michelle said that they would visit their father like every summer, and they would visit him for like a month, and that every time they went over there, every time Lisa was just that quintessential like perfect mom that you would want. Michelle said that she idolized Lisa. Michelle really wanted to be a mother, and she wanted to be the type of caring, devoted mother that Lisa was. She really idolized her and looked up to her. In fact, Michelle's first engagement ring was actually modeled after Lisa's. She said, quote, "I wanted to be the mom that she was." I guess when Michelle was little, she would even like try to mimic and imitate Lisa, like even carrying around the same type of glass that Lisa would. You know how kids are, like they'll mimic your movements, what you're wearing, what you're doing. And Michelle said that's how she was when she was a kid. That's how much she idolized Lisa and how much she loved her, which I just love that. You hear so many cases of step-parents being just total douchewads to their stepchildren. It is refreshing to know that that's not necessarily always the case. There are good step-parents out there. Now, it is said the couple were also animal lovers, especially Lisa. She loved animals, and that the couple actually had a golden retriever they named Jake, and it is said that dog was like, treated like royalty. Now, it is said the guys were totally in love, all right? They were just one of those couples that loved to spend time together, were just totally in love, meant to be together. Like, they were that kind of couple. They especially enjoyed spending time outdoors and activities on the water. Like, they even had a boat, And eventually, Joel Sr.'s daughters grew up and, had their own families. Michelle became a teacher and actually had 3 sons, Preston, Baylor, and Ben. Although, I think Michelle's husband actually passed away, leaving her to raise her 3 children alone. Preston, her son, said that he actually looked to Joel Guy Sr. as like a father figure, especially after his own father had passed, which, that broke my heart. That is so freaking sad, man. Candace also had her own children, 2 sons and a daughter, Joshua, Andrew, and Ashley. But Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa would end up having a child of their own. It is a son they named after Joel Sr. And for many, many years, I mentioned this earlier, Lisa was just a doting, loving housewife and mother to Joel Sr., his daughters, and the son she had with Joel Sr. So let's get a little bit more into the only child that Joel Sr. and Lisa had. So Joel Michael Guy Jr. was born March 13th, 1988. He was referred to as Joel Michael in his family to help distinguish him from his father. And I don't know a whole lot about Joel's upbringing or childhood, just that Lisa just spoiled him, doted on him, was just, described as that quintessential mother. Joel did attend a boarding school for his high school years, and it was called the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts for Exceptional Students. And it was located in Natchitoches, Louisiana. And it is attending attending this school that Joel would meet one of his closest best friends, kind of one of his only friends, honestly, a fellow student named Michael McCracken. Both Michael and Joel graduated from the school in 2006, and they would eventually live together on and off all throughout college years. Now, Michael would end up knowing Joel for a total of like approximately 10 years, all right? And in that entire 10 years that Michael knew Joel, he never once met Joel's father, only met Lisa once, didn't even know that Joel had half-sisters. He knew that Lisa would pay Joel's bills, like he knew that his parents paid his bills and pretty much paid his way. But in all the time Michael knew Joel, yeah, he never really socialized with his parents, even though they only lived an hour away in Luling, Louisiana. Michael also noticed that Joel never really got any like letters or packages or like any communication from his family other than his mother. Michael said the impression that Joel gave him was that, you know, he was sort of, quote, shunned from his family. Michael said that was sort of like the vibe Joel gave him. Michael only knew Joel to visit his family during Thanksgiving, and then like he would rotate Christmases with them. I think he would go like every other year. Now, it is said Joel was a loner, an outsider, if you will. He was described as distant and described as never bothering to forge or establish relationships with anyone, including his family, including his half-sisters. Apparently, growing up, whenever there'd be like a family gathering or something at the house, Joel would always stay in his room, never communicate with anyone, never talk, never smile. Like, he was totally and completely antisocial. Like, and again, this is like his own family. He's even like this with, you know, and he would just shut himself in his room and no one would see him. It is said he didn't even allow his like extended family, like his aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, to even know where he lived. I don't even know if he allowed his half-sisters to know. I mean, obviously his parents knew because, yeah, they were paying his bills, which we'll get into. All of Joel's half-sisters described him as, quote, reclusive, which, yeah, I just thought was just really weird, right? Like, I've heard of being shy, but yeah, man, I mean, from what I read and what they were describing, he was completely antisocial. Like, yeah, he would never come out of his room and, yeah, never talk or socialize. Michael said that Joel, although, you know, he described him as, quote, socially awkward, still had friends in high school. Michael said that when they were at the boarding school, Joel did have friends, and he kind of seemed to insinuate that, like, yeah, he kind of socialized normally a little bit, you know what I mean? Engaged in conversations and had like friends and acquaintances. But as Joel got older and as they, you know, got more into their adult years, into college years, Joel began to withdraw more and more, began to isolate himself more and more. Michael said, quote, there were weeks where you would barely see him at all because he would just barricade himself in his room. Even when he was living with Michael was the impression that I got. And yeah, that's just what I found so bizarre was, you know, so he has friends and, you know, is somewhat, you know, normal, average, whatever, during high school. But yeah, as he gets towards the end of high school, as he gets more into college and his early adulthood years, yeah, he starts pulling away more and more, even from Michael. And Joel would just spend more and more time alone in his room. It is said that he would spend a lot of time online. So I mentioned this earlier, right? Lisa was a devoted, dedicated mother, especially so with Joel, you know, her only child, you know, her only son. It is said she really doted on him, and it is said Joel's parents doted on him so much that, yeah, up until the events of today's case, when Joel is 28 years old, Joel's parents paid his way. And when I mean paid his way, like, I mean, like, paid for everything in his life, guys. Like, not just tuition, paid his bills, his car payment, his insurance. I'm sure they gave him grocery money. Like, this dude had never, ever once in his life held a paying job. The only jobs that Joel would ever hold in his life were like internships that were all unpaid, which, yeah, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, that shouldn't even be a thing. No job should be unpaid. That's ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. In fact, when Lisa went back to work, you know, remember, like I said, as the kids got older, she would go back to work. It is said that, you know, she would give over most of her paycheck to Joel. Angela later said that Lisa, quote, only worked to give her paycheck to her son. And Lisa was just totally dedicated mother to him. In fact, when Joel moved out to go to college, she even like kept every single thing in his childhood room, every single like project he'd ever done, and like had sort of like memorialized it, you know, like in a bunch of boxes and stuff. Like she loved her son, man. Now, records show a number of different addresses for Joel once he graduates boarding school and moves out of his parents' house. Louisiana, I believe, is where Joel would spend like a majority of his time in his life. He did spend one semester at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., but he dropped out of there and then attended Louisiana State University, LSU, where Michael was attending. Now, it was said when Joel first went to LSU, he was studying to be a surgeon, specifically a plastic surgeon, but in the close to 10 years that Joel would spend at LSU, he never obtained a degree. And I read several reports that said he had actually dropped out in 2015. So not sure, but I do know, like, for approximately 10-ish years, Joel would attend LSU and never obtain a degree. And I think, honestly, I got the impression that he only attended classes maybe to get his parents off his case or something. So Joel lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana for about 10 years. And I mentioned this earlier, during that time, Michael and Joel would be roommates off and on. Like I said, Michael was attending LSU. He was actually working to obtain a PhD, which he would get. And Michael ended up living in the Baton Rouge area from 2006 to 2015 when he graduated. He graduated with his PhD and actually took a job in Maryland. Now, it is said Michael and Joel really lost touch once Michael moved away. I mean, Joel was already kind of pulling away a little bit, but the gap between them really widened once Michael moved out of state. And like I said, man, as Michael, went to school and got his PhD and went off and, got a job afterwards and stuff, Joel would just kind of stay stuck. He would attend LSU, not graduate or anything, and mommy and daddy would pay for everything. He never once held a job, not even a part-time job. The only type of work he would ever hold would be internships. And this is how Joel continued living his life until the events of today's case, like I said, when Joel's approximately 28 years old. He just sort of is floating by in life, letting his parents foot the bill for him. But as time was going on and Joel Sr. and Lisa were nearing retirement age, they started, planning out their sunset years, like Joel Sr.'s daughters were all grown. I mean, they were grandparents now. Joel was the youngest child at 28 years old. They had 6 grandchildren, and they were like, you know what? I think it's time to plan the next chapter in our lives, the sunset years, right? And these plans would include selling their home and moving to Joel Sr.'s hometown of Surgoinsville. In fact, the guys had actually purchased Joel Sr.'s childhood home that he had lived in. And it is said the couple were just ridiculously excited for this new chapter in their lives. Like Joel Sr. especially so. He was really excited to go back and live in his childhood home, be back in his hometown. He was really looking forward to it. Lisa was excited. She was getting ready to, leave her job so that her and Joel Sr. could move. And she thought, maybe if she felt like it, she might get some part-time work. But now, she was looking forward to retiring. Now, unfortunately for Joel, his parents had decided that it was time for them to cut the purse strings, all right? It was time for Joel to support himself. Because you see, Joel Sr. and Lisa had sat down and crunched the numbers to decide okay, how much money are we going to need for retirement, and kind of crunching the numbers to see what they would need to be comfortable and, all that kind of stuff. And they had figured out they were going to retire. They were not going to be able to afford it if they kept supporting their son. They just weren't going to have enough money. Once Joel Sr. retired and Lisa wasn't working anymore, they weren't going to be able to afford to fund their son's lifestyle. So Joel would have to get a job and support himself. Now, apparently, this had been a somewhat long-time threat of Joel's parents. There were emails dating back all the way to 2013, 2014 of his dad threatening to cut off funding and threatening to withdraw his tuition and stuff. They had grown tired of Joel being at school for so long and not having any type of degree to show for it. And apparently, I couldn't find details about this, but apparently Joel had gotten into some sort of, quote, legal trouble at LSU. And in order to get him out of it, his parents had to pay. And in order to come up with the money, they had actually taken out another mortgage on their home. So not sure what happened there, but apparently this was something his parents had discussed with him before. So let's go to fall time 2016, all right? So it's like the fall time. It's like October. Like I said, Joel Sr. and Lisa were, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on their retirement, getting all their plans made, which included figuring out how to tell their son that they were gonna cut the purse strings. Apparently the plan was to tell Joel during Christmas time that year. Now, apparently Lisa talked to her stepdaughter Angela about her and Joel Sr.'s plans in October of 2016. Angela was over hanging out, and yeah, Lisa had mentioned to her, like, oh yeah, these are retirement plans, and yeah, Joel's gonna have to get his own job, dude. He's gonna have to support himself. We can't do it anymore. And apparently Lisa told the same thing to Michelle when she saw her later that month. I believe it was one of her son's birthday parties. And Lisa also shared this plan with her sister-in-law, Robin White. So it was pretty well known in the family that Joel Sr. and Lisa were going to retire and they weren't going to support Joel Jr. anymore. Now, I tried finding a little bit more about the specific dynamics between the relationship between Joel Jr. and his parents, but there wasn't really anything that I could find, There was a small incident that Lisa had confided into a coworker that kind of sheds like a little bit of light into maybe what the relationship dynamics were between parents and son. So on November 22nd, 2016, Lisa had confided in her coworker, Margie Pfeiffer, about some of the friction that was occurring between her and her son. She told Margie that I guess like Joel became very irate and angry when I guess he had called Lisa and she was on the phone with her mother at that time. And she told her son like, hey, I'll have to call you back. I can't talk right now. And apparently Joel just threw like a total shit fit and was just super angry that his mother didn't drop everything right then and there to talk to him. So that's not like a huge incident or anything, but it's sort of the only thing that I could find that sort of talked about like how this relationship went between Joel Sr., Lisa, and their son. I mean, we can certainly infer some things from what we've gathered so far, right? Like 28-year-old, never held a job, mommy and daddy pay for everything, throws a little shit fit when mommy won't pay attention to him. I mean, the optics, kind of aren't great. Like they're sort of, screaming spoiled little brat. And not saying that, this is true at all. I'm just saying that just based on the information that's available about this case, coupled with, the story Lisa told Margie, I wouldn't be surprised if Joel just didn't really respect his parents all that much and probably, wasn't very respectful of his mother. Not saying that was the case, just saying I would not be surprised. Now, finally, after many, many months on the market, on November 17th, 2016, Joel Sr. and Lisa's house finally sold. Joel Sr. shared the news in a family group chat. There was a family group text messaging chat that had Joel Sr., Lisa, Michelle, and Angela. I don't think Candace was a part of it, but it was them four. And he let it be known in the group chat that, hey, the house finally sold. Looks like Lisa and I are going to have to be out by December 13th so the new owners could move in. So Joel Sr. and Lisa were quickly packing up the house, getting ready to move. Now, according to Renee, one of Joel Sr.'s sisters, the couple had told her the week before Thanksgiving that year that they had planned to let Joel know that they were going to cut him off during the holidays of 2016 of that year. We mentioned that earlier. Apparently, the family was going to have a big Christmas celebration at Joel Sr.'s childhood home, and it was just going to be a really nice time. And that was the time Joel Jr.'s parents were going to let him know that he's going to have to be a normal adult and support himself. Now, I couldn't find out how, but somehow Joel found out what his parents were planning. All right. And he found out. We don't even know exactly when he found out. We know he at least knew of their plans by early November. All right. Possibly earlier. We don't know. But Joel did find out. Again, not sure how. I mean, you would think that his parents were telling everyone in the family what their plans were. Maybe that's how he found out. But remember, Joel was antisocial. He didn't talk to his family. He wasn't in any group chats with them. I mean, I'm sure some of them didn't even know where he lived. So not sure how Joel found out, but he found out what his parents were planning. He found out that his parents were planning on cutting the purse strings, and he was pissed. Joel was very angry at being cut off. And he was so angry that he started planning how he was going to get his parents' money permanently. Yeah, can you believe this? Can you believe this? So Joel started a notebook, all right? And this notebook had lots and lots of notes. It had a checklist of things that Joel needed to do in order to get rid of his parents and claim their money. His notebook, full of like notes and checklists and stuff, would end up being referred to as his quote book of premeditation. And I'm going to read quite a good chunk of some of these notes. And some people might find these notes a little graphic. I personally don't, but yeah, just be forewarned. These are notes that Joel took and how he was going to plan to get rid of his parents, all right? So he had like a checklist of things that had things written down like, quote, get killing knives, quiet, multiple. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer, crush bones. Get plastic bin for denaturation process. Does not matter where they're killed. Just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death. Not the mattress or couches. Get rid of bodies inside the house. They're in my DNA already there. He had a note that read, open up doggy door to provide entryway, but he crossed that note out. His notes continued on, quote, flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal. Get plastic sheeting for disposal process. He had another note that read, quote, buy hollow point bullets just in case. We'll be seen buying bullets. Just use computer room gun. Check to make sure there are bullets. Last resort. He's not alive to claim her half of the insurance money. All mine. $500,000. Flood the house. Covers up forensic evidence. Turn heater up as high as it goes. Speeds decomposition. Bleach reacts with luminol, just like blood. Douse area with bleach. Big sprayer. Lie. Trash compactor? And he had a question mark after trash compactor. And apparently Joel Sr. had a lot of guns in the house, which is where those notes about bullets and using like a computer room gun came from. Joel Sr. was a gun collector. The notes continue on, quote, body gives time of death. Alibi, don't have to get rid of body if there is no forensic evidence on the body. His fingerprints and DNA, and he wrote that in caps. Minimize things I touch throughout the house. Wear gloves and socks to prevent fingerprints and footprints. Drop something down the garbage disposal to break it. Get him on the ground fixing it. Kill him with the knife. Clean up mess from him before she gets home. Kill her with knife. Kill the dog after. And then the part of the dog was eventually crossed out, and instead he wrote in, quote, leave him alive. Fingerprints. Take dog with you. Place her in shower. Turn on hot water and point at her to get rid of forensics. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Place him in plastic bin and use it to get him into the upstairs bathroom. Cut off his arm and plant his flesh under her fingernails. Place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by the shower. Use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and soften bones for transport. Baste once every hour to accelerate. Flush sodium hydroxide down the toilet. Wash out bin with handheld shower head and then direct handheld into toilet to flush everything out of the pipes and into the public waterway. Douse killing room or rooms, because he had like the S in a parentheses. Kitchen with a question mark with bleach. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations. His killing room, her killing room, his bathroom, her bathroom. Wipe down areas near killing rooms and bathrooms. Turn heaters up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit to melt fingerprints and dry everything. Set her phone to send me a text message late on Sunday to prove I was in Baton Rouge and she was, quote, alive. Leave through front door and wipe down doorknobs. Timer for flammables set for Friday, 10 a.m. Sunlight masks fire, but not smoke. Everyone at work, so they can't report it. On another page of his notebook, he had written, quote, ultraviolet light shows fingerprints. Check mail before leaving. To get rid of blood, use peroxide. And he had the word hemoglobin with an arrow pointed to the word peroxide, and bleach. And he had the word DNA with an arrow pointing to the word bleach. On another page of the notes, it was titled Destruction of Bodies. And under that, he listed composition of body, and under that, he listed 20% fat, 20% protein, 55% water, 5% other elements. He also made notes of other things, like, quote, her assets, her life insurance, $500K, possibly more, and, quote, money all mine. I get the whole thing. Now, apparently, there was a $500,000 life insurance policy on Joel Sr.'s life, and Lisa was the benefactor. But if Lisa died as well, it would all go to Joel. And I believe Lisa herself herself had her own life insurance policy, with her son being the primary benefactor. And there were another page of the notebooks that like listed all of his parents' assets, like their cars, their homes, the boat, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, can you believe this kid is writing these notes? This is his parents, guys, and he's planning horrible things to do to them simply because they can't afford to pay for his life anymore. Like, can you just, I was reading these notes, I was like, dude, like, this is some cold shit, man. Like, this is so cold. Like, to write that stuff about your parents, about your mother who spent her life being a mother to you, being a stay-at-home mom, and then when she did working so that she could give her paycheck to you, like, the audacity of this bitch, man. Like, I cannot believe it. So on November 7th, 2016, Joel started buying the things he would need to make his plan come to life. That is why I said the earliest that we know Joel started planning for this was early November. This date right here, November 7th, when he started buying things. When he actually started writing in his notebook and keeping all of that, like, I have no clue. When exactly he found out what his parents were planning on doing, I have no clue whatsoever. And I tried really hard to find that out because that's what I was really dying to know. Like, how did he find out? But he did. And yeah, like I said, on November 7th, 2016 is when he started buying the supplies that he would need. So on this date, he bought muriatic acid, which is known for its dissolving properties, gloves, an iron pipe, liquid fire brand drain cleaner, sewer cleaner, a spray bottle, and food grade hydrogen peroxide, along with Clorox wipes. And then on the 18th, so not quite 2 weeks later, he purchased extension cords and a timer from Home Depot. And the day after that, he bought a K-bar marine-style knife from Academy Sports. He purchased other things around this time frame as well that included a large bleach sprayer. And on the 21st, he went to Walmart and bought several large blue 45-gallon storage bins. And on the 22nd, he went back to the Academy Sports and bought a garden hose and a pipe adapter. He bought other items as well. It included a meat grinder, a food processor, a blender, and a gas can. So yeah, Joel was quite the busy shopper in November. And let's go to the weekend of the events of today's case, all right? So the last time the Guy family would get together would be Thanksgiving 2016. So on Thursday, November 24th, again, 2016, the Guy family gathered at Joel Sr. and Lisa's home to celebrate their last Thanksgiving there. Angela did not attend Thanksgiving. She planned on spending a week with her parents for Christmas at the new home, so she did not attend. Michelle came over with her 3 sons, though, and she said from the moment that she got to her parents' home around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning that day, until the time she left around 8 p.m. that night, Joel behaved very unusually, all right? Very out of character. He was outgoing. He was friendly and chatty. In fact, he was actually talking to Michelle's sons, his nephews, which really shocked her because she was like, dude, I don't even think he knows my son's names. And all of a sudden, he's like talking to them. And Joel just spent all day talking to his nephews, showing them his old stuff that his mom had kept, showing him his old bedroom, even giving them some toys and stuff. And Michelle, yeah, certainly noticed this because she's like, whoa, like, this is unusual. Like, bro, you're like 28 years old. I've never known you in your life to actually be sociable with us. And Michelle said it was just weird because whenever she turned around, it seemed that her half-brother was like standing there watching her. So the guys had a laundry room on the second floor, and Michelle's washing machine had broke, so she was doing laundry at her parents' house that Thursday. And so she had to, keep running up and down the stairs doing laundry. And she said it was just so weird because whenever she would like turn around, wherever she was, she could see out of like her peripheral vision, Joel right there, just like looking at her and just like being there. And again, this was weird because like Joel was usually in his bedroom, door closed, not talking to anyone, not socializing. Like the dude didn't even smile. And now all of a sudden he's chatty, he's outgoing, he's talking to his nephews, and he's like, I don't know, following his half sister around. It was all very, very odd. Michelle thought it was also odd because as she was like going in and out of the house to do her laundry, like get her laundry from her car, she noticed the blue 45-gallon like storage bins in the back back of her brother's car, and she just thought like, oh, that's weird. Like, is he doing laundry too? Like, she made a mental note of it because she thought that was super weird. So after dinner, Michelle took off with her sons, leaving Joel at his parents' house. He was actually staying the weekend at their house. And then Lisa, Joel Sr., and Joel Jr. then spent the next day, Friday, moving some stuff into the new home in Surgoinsville that included their boat. Joel Sr. also took this time to show his son their new home. And unfortunately, this Friday would be the last day that Joel Sr. and Lisa would be alive. So let's go to the next day, Saturday, November 26th, 2016. Sometime in the late morning, Joel Jr., who is 28 years old, attacked his father, Joel Sr., who was 61. Joel Sr. was in a second floor exercise room when his son attacked him with a knife while Lisa was shopping at Walmart. And the evidence left behind showed that Joel Sr. put up an intense struggle with his son. It is said that is why Joel Jr. actually attacked his father like that out of nowhere, because there was no way he was going to win like an actual fair fight with his father. And yeah, Joel Sr. really put up a fight, but unfortunately, his son succeeded in stabbing him to death. There was blood all over the exercise room, blinds were torn, a Bowflex machine had gotten completely turned over, and it was a brutal, brutal scene, and it's going to get more brutal. Joel would end up stabbing his father 42 times and stabbed his father so severely that there were 12 marks left on Joel Sr.'s ribs, and these marks ranged from like little nicks and scratches to complete severing of the bone. There were other stabs to his liver, kidney, and lungs, and he had a shoulder wound that was so deep that a piece of the blade was actually found embedded in the muscle tissue. Joel ended up receiving several deep cuts to both of his hands in the struggle with his father, which included a super deep cut to his left thumb. After his father was dead, Joel undressed the body and left his clothes in a pile on the floor. Meanwhile, Lisa, who was 55, was, like I said, out shopping at Walmart. The Walmart surveillance camera shows Lisa leaving the store at 12:19 p.m. When she got home around approximately 12:30 p.m., she entered through the front door as usual, not knowing at all that her husband was dead. She dropped the groceries on the floor by the front door in the foyer. Do you guys say foyer or foyer? Apparently, there's two different ways to say it. Apparently, it's more common in Europe to say like the foyer, and over here in the States, it's common to say like foyer, but I've always heard it say foyer, so that's how I'm gonna say it. So yeah, she dropped her groceries in the foyer and went upstairs, and it is when she walked upstairs that her son attacked her. Joel would end up stabbing his mother over 31 times, and she had 21 severe injuries as a result of the stab wounds. 9 of her ribs were severed, and there were several deep stab wounds to her buttocks. And when Joel had successfully stabbed his mother to death, rather than undress her, he cut her clothes from her body. You guys think that means something? Joel then laid down plastic sheeting in the master bathroom and dragged both of his parents' nude bodies onto it. And this is where we're gonna get into some dismemberment and some pretty icky stuff. So Joel cut his father's hands off at the wrist and actually left his father's hands nearby on the floor near the exercise room, or rather in the exercise room, really. He then decapitated his mother, took her head downstairs, and placed it in a large pot. I'm unclear if there was like liquid in this pot. I think there was, but he put her head in this pot, put this pot on the stove, put a lid on the pot, and turned the stove on. Evidence would later reveal that Lisa's head wasn't just like cut off from her body. It had been broken off with force, guys. Yeah, like absorb what I just told you there. Like that is brutal. I have no words, and it's gonna get worse. So let's plot on. He cut off his mother's legs just below the knee, cut off her arms and severed them at the shoulder blade, and also removed her right hand. Joel then set to work dismembering his father. He severed his father's arms again at the shoulder blade, removed his father's legs at the hip, and removed his father's right foot at the ankle. Now, it is said cutting their limbs like this, especially like at the joints where he cut them at, would have taken serious time. Joel then placed his parents' body parts, including his father's head, and placed them in the 45-gallon containers that he had brought. And he had filled these containers with a bunch of chemicals. And this included muriatic acid, and this was so that he could dissolve the body parts. Each body part also had a large gash inflicted upon it post-mortem, and it was so the chemicals would seep faster and deeper into the body parts, dissolving them. And at some point, Joel locked up Jake, the golden retriever, in the upstairs laundry room. I'm going to guess he probably locked the dog up before he attacked his father, but he locked the dog up and left the dog there, which I know everything I just said is just so horrible what he did to his parents, but for some reason, leaving the dog locked up in the room, somehow, what is it about animals that, I don't know, is it because, animals aren't sentient like us, and so it feels kind of like when you're hurting a kid that you're in a special a-hole when you hurt animals? I don't know, but yeah, for some reason when I read that part, I don't know, that really broke my heart. My heart was already breaking reading this case. I just absorbed everything that I just told you. This kid just did this. Killing your parents is bad enough, but to mutilate them like this and to do it methodically and maliciously and purposely, my dudes, I have no words for this case, man. And at 3:30 p.m., after he has done butchering his parents, Joel was seen on the Walmart surveillance cameras, that same Walmart that his mother was at just a handful of hours earlier, buying first aid equipment. He was buying bandages and ointment. He also bought isopropyl alcohol and hydrogen peroxide as well. And on his way home, Joel swung by the ATM and emptied his parents' bank accounts out of as much money as the ATM would allow him to withdraw. He also charged large amounts to his father's credit card that included a $10,000 payment to his apartment complex in Louisiana and other large amounts that went to LSU, I'm guessing for tuition, and towards his utilities. And then Joel went back home and stayed the night in the home. Stayed the night in the home he murdered his parents in and was actively trying to dissolve their bodies in. Yeah, just, slept and had a nice restful sleep, I'm guessing, and he left the home the next day on Saturday. He drove back to Baton Rouge, and this was because his wounds were a little more severe than he thought. It was going to take more than just bandages and neosporin. So he drove back to Baton Rouge where he lived and went to the LSU Student Health Clinic to get his wounds to his hands taken care of. It is said that Joel intended to drive back to Tennessee to his parents' home and finish the job. And if it hadn't been for the wounds to his hands, he probably would have never driven back to Louisiana to begin with. Meanwhile, Candace, remember, Joel Sr.'s daughter, Joel Jr.'s half-sister, celebrated her birthday that Sunday. And she found it very odd that her father hadn't called to wish her a happy birthday. This was the first time in her whole life that her father had not called her on her birthday. And she thought it was really weird. And again, that just really broke my heart. Can you imagine having this happen to your parents so close to your birthday? Renee, Joel Sr.'s sister, had also been trying to get a hold of her brother, and she couldn't. She called him both Saturday and Sunday and hadn't been able to get a hold of him either day. The last day she had talked to him was Thanksgiving on Thursday. Now, when Lisa didn't show up to work on Monday, November 27th, and couldn't be contacted or located, her boss, Jennifer Whitehead, called the police. She was concerned, this wasn't like Lisa at all, and not being able to get a hold of her, that was just unheard of. So Jennifer called the Knox County Sheriff's Office to request a welfare check be conducted on Lisa. So a patrol car was sent, and Knox County Police Officer Stephen Ballard was the officer who went to the guy home to conduct the welfare check. So when he arrived on scene, nothing really, looked amiss. He knocked several times, but he got no answer. And with nothing really looking out of the ordinary or anything like that, Officer Ballard just, turned around and left the scene. Now, when Jennifer and her coworkers were told by the Knox County Police, hey, a guy went over there and didn't find anything, they weren't satisfied with this answer. And so someone, I'm not sure if it was Jennifer or someone else, the article just said it was a, quote, company representative, then called the Major Crimes Unit and expressed that, they were concerned about Lisa because there there was I guess some huge like meeting or something that Lisa had to attend that day, and there was just no way she would miss it. It was super important, and this wasn't like her, and this was why they were concerned, and they were like, no, you need to go over there and actually do a check. Like this does not smell right to us. And so about an hour or two after Officer Ballard's initial visit to the Guy residence, Knox County Detective Jeremy McCord met up with Officer Ballard in a parking lot to see, what Officer Ballard had found when he went there. Officer Ballard said that the foyer light was on, but he had gotten, no answer when he knocked, and nothing else really looked amiss. And Detective McCord was like, hey, so we've got a little bit more information, so we're going to go over there for a more thorough check. Would you come along? And of course, Officer Ballard, agreed. So Detective McCord, Officer Ballard, along with two other officers, went back to the Guy residence. And when they got there, they found a seemingly normal empty house. Both Joel Sr. and Lisa's vehicles were parked in the driveway, and nothing looked off, right? Like there was no like broken windows or debris or anything like that to indicate anything was wrong. They noticed the 21st Century Realtor sign out in the front yard, and they noticed the like sold, for sale, and then they'll slap a sold over it when it sells. They noticed that in the front yard, but they did think it was weird that, since this house was sold and everything, they didn't see that like realtor's lockbox that goes on the front door. That was missing, so that was kind of odd to them. One of the officers peered in through the front door and saw Lisa's groceries on the floor, and they also saw that these groceries included perishables. There was bacon, sausage, turkey slices, ice cream, like all this stuff, and it was out. The officers then decided to go around back to the house. Like the house had like a pretty tiny like wooden fence, like I don't know, it was like 4 feet tall or something, so it was easy for them to get access to the backyard. So they go to the backyard and crawl up the back porch, and the first thing they notice was really odd. They noticed that the back door had its doorknob missing. Detective McCord immediately bent down to sort of peek through the doorknob hole, and immediately he noticed a, quote, odd chemical smell like coming through the doorknob. He said he also felt heat radiating from the door, which really worried him. And when they were unable to access the home, the cops then decided to call the realtor, probably because of like the for sale sign and the sold sign in the front yard. And the realtor suggested like, hey, if their vehicles are there and they're unlocked, they should have a garage opener that would give you access to the house. So one of the officers tried one of the vehicles. I don't know if it was Joel Sr.'s or Lisa's, but it was one of their cars and it was unlocked, and they were able to get the garage door opener. And now they had access to the house. So they entered the house. Detective McCord was leading. Officer Ballard was right behind him, and then the two other officers were behind Stephen Ballard. It was said many of them had a, quote, physical reaction to like the smell and the heat that was coming from within the house. Officer Ballard said that he actually felt his forehead tingling from like the chemicals. When they got in the home, they saw that the house's thermostat was pumped up to 90 degrees, and they also saw several small space heaters placed all throughout the house that were also running at full power, and it brought the overall temperature of the house up to 93 degrees. Detective McCord said, quote, as soon as the garage door opened, we immediately felt heat. Walking through the downstairs of the house, nothing made sense to me. They came across Lisa's groceries that were scattered on the floor, and they came upon a table going into the kitchen that had Joel Sr. and Lisa's wallets on it. There was also a sledgehammer next to the wallets. There was another table close to it that had a bunch of long guns on it. Officers went through the kitchen. They came across the stove that was on. They came across the pot on the stove that was on, and it was boiling. They did not see Lisa's head was in it because there was a lid on the pot. The pot was now boiling. Detective McCord said, quote, there's something in that pot. You could feel the heat coming off the stove. But they didn't stop to check the contents of the pot, though. I don't even think they turned off the oven. They proceeded straight into the foyer area to where the staircase was. They heard Jake the dog barking. He had actually been barking since they had tried to get access to the house. So that was the direction that they headed. So as they proceeded up the staircase, it was one of those staircases that has like two like sections of it, like, cause it sort of like went up, and then there was like another staircase that went like this. So as they got to the top of the first set of stairs, they started seeing blood droplets. And that is when Detective McCord announced to everyone to put on their gloves. They climbed the stairway, and when they got to the top, they found cut up clothes, which we know were Lisa's, a large knife, and lots of bottles of peroxide, bleach, acid and rubbing alcohol. Detective McCord then went one way towards the master bedroom and master bathroom, while Officer Ballard proceeded the other way towards the exercise room. And what each officer would find would haunt them, all right? It would horrify them. So as Officer Ballard proceeded down the hallway, he came across Joel Sr.'s hands. Ballard said, quote, "You can see straight down the hall, and I saw hands, not connected to a body." On his body cam footage, you can actually hear one of the other officers like freak out when they discover this. And he's like saying like, you know, quote, "Those are fucking hands. Those are fucking hands." Like he's like clearly freaking out that they had just come across like human hands. Apparently one of the hands was in a clenched fist and the other was in like an upright position, sort of like this. And as Officer Ballard was making that discovery, Detective McCord was making his way into the master bedroom and bathroom. He came across the corpses being dissolved in the blue containers in the master bathroom. He can actually be heard on Ballard's body cam footage. You can actually hear him say, "Oh my God," like you can hear him as he's discovering this. Detective McCord would later say, quote, "The only thing I saw were two tubs with what appeared to be body parts liquefying. It was hot in there. Hotter in there than most place." Police would later describe it as a, quote, "diabolical stew of human remains." And you can see and hear on the body cam footage that as like Ballard and McCord are like simultaneously making their discoveries, you can hear like McCord immediately start ordering the officers like out of the house. Like, no, we need to go. We need to clear this area. Like you can hear him like ordering them to GTFO. You can also hear on the body cam footage that like McCord is worried that like what he found could possibly be like explosive. You can actually hear him say, quote, "I don't need shit blowing up yet." So that seemed to be the primary reason he wanted the officers out of the home. Like he didn't know what he had stumbled upon really. Like he knew that, you know, he saw some sort of decomposition happening, but he didn't know if that, you know, if that stuff was going to explode or not. He later said, quote, "At that point, the other officers held the hallway and we started doing standard building clearing. I will never get those smells out of my head or my dreams." And that was when they called in backup to secure the scene. Now, by the time authorities discovered the containers, apparently all the flesh from Joel Sr.'s head had dissolved and all that was recovered was his skull. And the solution was so toxic, it actually required like biohazard equipment to properly remove from the premises. They actually had to call in the KCSO hazmat team to remove it. They discovered other items in the home as well, including sewer line cleaner, a 13.5-pound bag of baking soda, liquid fire brand drain cleaner, hydrochloric acid, drain opener, lye, hydrogen peroxide, bleach, and a large bleach sprayer. They also found a Post-it note that was in an open suitcase that belonged to Joel, and it had the name and address of a Louisiana Ace hardware store. And apparently this Ace hardware store was where Joel had purchased the sewer line cleaner. They also found Joel's backpack in the guest bedroom that he was staying in, and in this backpack contained his premeditation notebook. There was so much evidence to collect that the forensic unit actually worked all throughout Monday and into the next day of Tuesday to gather everything. It was said there was evidence found in every single room of the home. McCord said of the crime scene, quote, "It was the most horrific thing I've encountered in police work in my life." They found the scissors that had been used to cut up Lisa's clothing. They found 2 knives that were near her clothes, along with Joel's laptop that he had left behind. There were other knives found throughout the house as well, including in the guest bathroom and in the sink of the master bathroom. And because all of these like cleaning products and stuff they found looked like brand new, like they had just been purchased, investigators decided to hit up local stores and look at surveillance footage and see if they could find someone buying all of these supplies. And that's when they had come across the surveillance footage of Joel at Walmart at 3:30, where he was buying those bandages and the ointment and stuff. All in all, authorities would end up finding surveillance footage from 5 different stores of Joel buying the necessary supplies he would need to kill his parents. Now, other articles said that they went to that Walmart to look at their surveillance footage because of the groceries on the floor. They were from Walmart, and that was how investigators had come to Walmart. Either way, when they saw this footage of Joel at Walmart with his bandage hand, you know, buying all this first aid stuff, he was, of course, their primary suspect. He was like their prime suspect right there. So they set to work digging into him and they put a surveillance team on him. Although I don't think the surveillance team was 24/7. Now, on late Monday, November 28th, Joel drove back to Knoxville from Baton Rouge and arrived in the early morning hours of Tuesday, November 29th. He was headed towards his parents' home, but when he got there, he saw all the police tape around the house and immediately made a U-turn and went back home. He would end up being arrested later that day, Tuesday, in his apartment complex as he was getting into his car. And in the trunk of his car, they found a food processor and I think like a blender or a grinder of some kind. And it was only once Joel was arrested that the police released the story to the media. Apparently they didn't want to tip off Joel that he was being watched and he was their primary suspect. And I think they knew they were going to arrest him relatively quickly, so they decided to sit on the story, wait until Joel was in custody, and then they informed the news about it. They collected evidence from Joel's apartment, and that included DNA swabs from his bathtub drain, taking some of his clothes, computers, other various electronics. They took a 12-gauge shotgun from his apartment, and various receipts from like a different of stores for a variety of products. He would remain at the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison in Louisiana until January of 2017. And this was due to like some clerical error, and it caused a delay in getting him extradited to Tennessee. Not sure exactly what it was, but yeah, something in the system screwed it up. Now, as Joel was sitting in jail waiting to go to trial, he called up his one-time best friend, Michael. Now, at this point, they'd been out of touch for quite some time, and Michael had come across the story, so he knew, like, what was going on when Joel called him from jail. So during this phone conversation that happened in December, the two friends, talked a lot about, the case and what was going on, and I'm going to give you some quotes now of the conversation. It was kind of weird because the tape was kind of hard to hear, and then different media outlets just kind of reported like chunks of the conversation. So what I'm about to quote to you isn't like in order from like the beginning of the conversation to the end. These were just excerpts of conversations that I could find. I tried listening to the tape and I could barely make it out. So during the conversation, Joel told Michael to consider him dead. Quote, "Consider me dead and move on with your life. I genuinely want you to be happy. Why did I do this? Blah, blah, blah. I just did word vomit at you." That was a whole conversation. Those were just like the parts that the media reported on. Frankly, it was probably because those were the parts that were the most clear. Michael kind of lamented on to Joel saying, quote, "It hurts my heart. You've been my best friend for my entire adult life. And I don't know if that will ever change regardless of what you did." And at one point, Michael even says, quote, "I'm not totally surprised. I don't know what to say. All that aside, I am angry and lost and confused and disappointed and upset, and I'm mourning you like you're dead, even though I'm talking to you on the phone. And it's taken everything I have to process and maintain my sanity." And again, those were like chunks of the conversation that Michael told Joel, just kind of, telling him like, bro, like, I can't even believe that this is happening. And another part of the conversation, Joel tells Michael, quote, "I think about you all the time. You are the only good thing in my life." And, Michael's like, okay, I don't know what to say. And Joel responded with, quote, "I mean, I don't know that there is anything to say. Tell me I'm a fucking idiot. Tell me, why did I do this?" And just listening to the tape, even though you can't really understand the individual words, it was clearly a very emotional conversation. And frankly, because I watched a good chunk of the trial, because it's all up on YouTube. And honestly, this conversation kind of had me taken aback because I was shocked that Joel could even express emotion like that. So I don't know if Michael truly was the only person in his life that he ever cared about. I don't know, but I remember being really shocked when I heard that tape. Just like, wow, dude, like, he sounds so emotional and genuine, but yet when you look at him in the trial, like in the video, he has like no emotion at all. Joel would end up being prosecuted by Knox County District Attorney Hector Ian Sanchez and Assistant District Attorney Leslie Nacios. He was defended by former public defender Mark Stevens and Assistant Public Defender John Halstead and Jonathan Harwell. Now, though Joel pled not guilty, he did request that if he was convicted and found guilty, that he get the death penalty. But that request was ultimately denied. The state opted not to pursue the death penalty against Joel, and under Tennessee law, only prosecutors can request the death penalty, and they are the only ones who have like discretion in seeking it, and only a jury can impose it. Judge Stephen Sword told Joel, quote, "There's nothing I can do to assist you in having them pursue that. You've done all you can to open that door for the state. I can't force them to do it, and neither can you." Now, no one really knows why Joel argued for this, especially since he was pleading not guilty. And he wasn't even pleading like not guilty based on like, mental incompetence or anything. But there are those who argue that Joel argued for this because it was in a bid bid to get a, cell all to himself so he wouldn't need to have a cellmate and so that he could be left alone in prison away from the general population. Now, in the months leading up to his trial, his attorneys, of course, tried getting, all the evidence thrown out, as well as testimonies from Joel's siblings and Lisa's coworker, Margie. They also tried to argue that because Detective McCord didn't have a warrant when he entered the Guy residence, all the evidence taken from there was inadmissible. They, of course, lost all these motions, of course, except for one. Any evidence, I guess, that was taken from Joel's apartment in Baton Rouge was ruled inadmissible. And Judge Sword ruled that although they had gotten, a warrant to search Joel's apartment, the application did not provide enough specific information to establish probable cause. And after many, many delays caused by the defense filing a bunch of motions and the outbreak of COVID-19, Joel's trial would finally begin September 28th, 2020, and it would last 4 days. His trial was actually one of the first to be held in Tennessee since the COVID-19 outbreak. Prosecutors theorized that the timer that Joel had bought at Home Depot was to be used as an attempt to start a fire at the home after the bodies had been dissolved and then get rid of any forensics. Now, the defense, they tried to say that because Joel was so outgoing and friendly and happy at Thanksgiving, he couldn't have possibly done these murders because, the stab wounds, because you know how they can, examine stab wounds and wounds in general and sort of, tell oh, this wound was inflicted with a lot of anger. It took a lot of force. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah, the defense was trying to say the wounds inflicted on Joel Sr. and Lisa were clearly done by someone with a lot of anger and hatred. And Joel was super outgoing and happy during Thanksgiving, so he couldn't have done it. Yeah, that was their argument. But I guess this argument was especially undermined when Michael took the stand and described Joel as socially awkward and, described how he was known for staying in his room for days, even weeks at a time and being unsociable and that kind of thing. Get this. The defense also tried to say that the handwriting in that premeditation notebook wasn't verified to be in Joel's handwriting, even though the prosecution pointed out that Joel's DNA was all over it. And it was found in his backpack with his stuff. Look, man, I get the defense needs to try to do their job, but my God, trying to plant reasonable doubt that notebook full of murder notes and stuff was not Joel's that made me laugh. I was just dude, if I'm sitting on that jury, I'm thinking in my head really, come on. Halstead also tried to say that there was no way to confirm how Joel received those injuries to his hands. There was no way to prove it. They also tried to argue that Joel had not fled to Louisiana. That's where he lived. And throughout the entire trial, man, honestly, the defense did not put up a very good argument. They called little to no witnesses, brought forth little to no evidence. Their primary goal seemed to be trying to plant reasonable doubt and question the validity of the DNA testing and stuff like that. And look, I get it, dude. It would be so hard to be a defense attorney in this case. There's so much evidence to point to Joel's guilt. What are you gonna do? And get this. As Joel was on trial, all right? As he's on trial for his parents' murder, for their money, Joel was still trying to claim a piece of his parents' life insurance money. Yeah. So according to records filed in U.S. District County, Joel penned a handwritten note that read, quote, "I hereby assert the continuing validity of my claims to the insurance proceeds, totaling $696,666.68, plus applicable interest." This fool was trying to say that he still should have a claim to his parents' life insurance money. An attorney representing Joel's sisters, James Fryoff? F-R-I-A-U-F, no idea how to pronounce that, filed a claim on their behalf, attempting to block Joel from getting any money and preventing him from, not even being eligible for it. Joel argued that until he was convicted or cleared, the insurance money should just be frozen and put aside. Can you believe that this is what this kid is focusing on during his trial, is getting money from his parents' life insurance? His parents, who who he murdered, by the way. Finally, on Friday, October 2nd, 2020, after approximately 3 hours of deliberations, Joel Guy Jr. was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of felony murder, and 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. Now, due to the first-degree murder convictions, apparently he got like an automatic life sentence without the possibility of parole until after 51 years. Now, while awaiting his sentencing, again, in a bid to get a jail cell all by himself, Joel tried to make the argument that he was a danger to himself and other cellmates. In a letter dated October 8th, Joel tried to argue that he was having fantasies of like attacking a fellow inmate and like gouging his eyes out and stuff. He wrote, quote, "I'm writing this letter because I don't want to end up with a disciplinary infraction, or worse, more criminal charges. Nor do I logically believe that this gentleman deserves to be blind. I don't know what to do. I shouldn't be allowed access to another person while they're unconscious." And again, the prosecutors thought that this was just in a bid for Joel to get put, I don't know, in solitary or have his own jail cell or something. Like we've already said, he's pretty antisocial. Judge Sword ultimately sentenced Guy to 2 consecutive life sentences, even though Joel's attorneys tried to argue against consecutive sentencing, arguing that Joel would be a senior citizen after like that 51 years had passed and he wouldn't be a threat to anyone. And Judge Sword shot back that while, Joel's body would deteriorate in those 51 years, it was his, quote, "sick and depraved mind that he was worried about." Quote, "I don't think his mind is going to change. Quite frankly, I think if it was over 500 years, it wouldn't be sufficient." He accused Joel of never showing remorse for what he had done. Quote, "I don't see any potential rehabilitation of Mr. Guy. I was watching him during the trial. He showed absolutely no remorse or despair over seeing what he had done. Quite frankly, Mr. Guy, you look like you're kind of proud of what you've accomplished." He called the crime, quote, "pure evil overkill," and saying, quote, "This is the most extreme abuse of a corpse I've seen in 25 years, and I hope it's the most serious that I'll see in my career." And just as a sort of after note, the day after Joel Sr. and Lisa were put to rest, I guess Lisa's mother passed away. Alvin Jr. said that it was due to a broken heart. Like, he said his mother collapsed when she heard that her daughter was murdered and was even more heartbroken when she found out the details. And yeah, he said in his victim impact statement that she definitely died of a broken heart. And yeah, guys, that was the sad, disturbing, infuriating tale of Joel Guy Jr. And I can't believe, what an entitled, spoiled brat. What is the definition of, right? You have your parents who have sacrificed everything and taken care of you your whole life. And because they want to retire, because they want you to work a job at 28 years old and take care of yourself, you decide to, murder them? I don't know. I have so many questions about this case, too. There's just no rhyme or reason, right? They didn't abuse Joel. And it's not like when they were going to cut him off financially, it's not like they were saying, oh, screw you, you're not our son, you're disowned. They were just saying, hey, we're going to retire now and we're not going to be able to afford to pay for your life. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Joel is weird. He's an enigma, man. I don't know. What are we thinking? Could he be on the spectrum of some kind? Did he maybe suffer some kind of trauma that impacted him? Or is he just an a-hole? I don't know. It was so weird. Especially when Michael said that in high school, he had friends and was, relatively normal, average or whatever. But as he got older, he got more reclusive. So I was wondering, is he on some kind of spectrum? Did something happen to him? Trauma that happened to him that made him like that? I don't know, but then his family was saying he's always been like that and quiet and reclusive, and it's just so weird. I don't know. What do you guys think? Please tell me, what do you guys think of Joel? What are we thinking about this guy? I don't know, man. It's super sad. It's disgusting, and man, I'm telling you, dude, if you watch some of the videos too of the trial, I think Judge Sword is right. He looks like he is proud of what he's done because, in the trial, they showed the body cam footage. Now, thankfully, if you look it up on YouTube, do not worry. They censor out the bodies in the containers. And when you do see the pot with Lisa's head, the lid is on it. They don't open it or anything like that. So don't worry about that. But yeah, as they're showing this stuff as evidence, you know what I mean? and knowing like what's in there and hearing the cops and them like reacting to it. I remember sitting there like being very anxious, like watching this, just like, oh my God, this is terrible. But like the camera's on Joel, you know, because I think it was like court TV that was airing the trial. And yeah, he looks completely unbothered about what he's watching throughout the whole trial. I don't know. There were some instances to me where it came off as if he was trying to show an emotion that he thought would be expected of him or something. I don't know. It was very weird. This whole case, I have no explanation, man. Like, at least if, you know, they had abused him or something, like, at least that we could point to that, you know, and be like, okay, this is why he did what he did. Like, that doesn't make it okay, but this explains it. I don't know how to explain this other than maybe he's just a spoiled brat. Is there something like wrong with him up here? Or is he just a spoiled, rotten, selfish brat? Please tell me your thoughts. I would love to know what you guys think. Thank you again to Lori Archibald for recommending this case to me. This was definitely a wild one. And man, I must have watched, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours of the trial videos. I wanted to watch them all, but I just unfortunately don't have that much time. And yeah, man, I have so many questions, and it's so sad, man. It's just so sad. Yeah, I don't know. This case, yeah, is it definitely going to stick with me, I think. And yeah, I guess that does it for the first case of 2023. Yeah, and it was a pretty bonkers one. Please let me know your thoughts down below. I am getting to comments. I think I'm all caught up now. I'm so sorry I went like a good chunk there without responding to comments. I've just been so busy, so much stuff going on that, yeah, I end up like falling way behind. So I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for commenting. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope your year is off to a great start. Hope you enjoyed my little updated set here. I gotta say, I'm really loving these lights in the leaves, especially because like, I don't know, I was trying to go for like a little like forestry, like, I don't know, fairy type a thing, and like I like that it's sort of like almost kind of looks like fireflies. I don't know, but yeah, I hope you like the updated set. Again, I feel like I still need to tweak some things and whatnot, but yeah, I'm having lots of fun, you know, with set decoration and stuff. And yeah, okay. Well, I will go ahead and let you go. That'll do it for this week for Crime Dive. I'll see you next week. Take care of yourself out there. Remember, I say this all the time, just don't be a dick, man, all right? Like, people suck. The world sucks. Don't be a crappy person that goes out there and just spreads more misery, all right? Like, just be a decent person when you go out there, all right? Don't be a douchewad. Don't be a selfish, spoiled prick like Joel here, all right? Do better, all right? You totally can. Alrighty, guys. I guess I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.